Hey guys, how are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Apple. I said apple. Happy. No, it's not Thankful Tuesday. It's Happy Terrific Tuesday. I get it confused. It's Thankful Thursdays and Terrific Tuesdays, and I'm not sure if I told you guys that yet. But anyway, I'm always about putting an adjective in front of my days, and so today is Terrific Tuesday. How y'all doing? Let me know y'all here. Say hello so I can know you guys are in the room. We're gonna get this thing started in a minute. I'm excited to be here with you guys today. I hope you guys had an amazing weekend. I'm hoping that you did something that was I always tell you do something kind for yourself. Um, I used to always just call it self care, but you know what? Honestly, it's just a regimen. Like we should get used to doing something kind for ourselves. Should get used to doing something regularly that like rejuvenates us. So, I'm always gonna say that. Hey, mom, how are you? I love you. And just always, we need to always make sure that we're pouring back in ourselves. It's not something that is done very easily. I don't think it's automatic. It should be, but I just don't think we're programmed sometimes to know or to like regularly do it. And almost we sometimes feel guilty when we do things for ourselves. And I am telling you to take it back, right? Take back that guilt. I used to have it. That's how I know is that it's really easy to feel guilty about doing something nice about yourself for yourself. So, yes, so today we're still in our healthy relationship series. And listen, I hope you guys are getting something from it because, man, I think it's so under talked about. We do not talk about healthy relationships and what they look like enough, right? I think we assume that we know. And I think that that's where the deception comes in, right? And when I say that, I mean, on some levels, yeah, you know what relationships should look like. On some levels, we know what healthy looks like. But a lot of times we don't. We're deceived about what we think because it's what we see. It's what's portrayed in the media. It's what's portrayed around people around us. And depending on who's around you, depending on where you grew up at, depending on the environment you grew up in, it might not always be the healthiest thing. Whether that is um, a, a, a a romantic relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's an acquaintanceship, a social relationship, or like a sibling relationship, or even like a child parent relationship, whichever way it goes. Um, it's not, I just don't think it's as automatic as we pretend it is, right? I just don't think that we are as aware as we think we are. And the more we talk about it, the more we have these conversations, the more we learn about it, I believe the more we are just solving a piece of the problem, right? If you can handle yourself, like listen for real, like we everybody want to change the world. If you can first handle yourself and you can change and be better, man, let me tell you, that's half of the solution. If we all took that approach, if we all worked on ourselves for real, I mean, like not just to say we worked on ourselves, but to really put the work in on our for ourselves to be better, not perfect, but to be better. Um, One step at a time, a little bit at a time, and be accountable for our growth, man, the world will be just such a better place. So these conversations foster an environment, or they're supposed to foster an environment when we realize how important it is for us to be aware and take our own healing into our hands, right? I love the saying that someone might hurt you, someone it might be their fault, but it's still your responsibility to heal. Period, point blank. Somebody might have hurt you, they might have done something to you horrible, but it's still your responsibility to heal. So, don't be bound by that thing. Understand that, there is something on the other side of it. So, yes, so this relationship series that we're talking about, um, I have gone over what I define or what is defined even in psychology as a healthy relationship. And the four main components that were defined were honesty, trust, respect, and open conversation, communication, right? Also with effort and what was the other thing? Effort and compromise. I'm not sure. I have that written down. I'll share that again, but I've shared that like every day that we've talked so far. But today we're going to talk about one particular element that is so pivotal to these relationships, and it is communication. Um, do you know how to communicate? Now, before you want to just answer that, before you want to say, yeah, I know how to communicate, I do this, there are some people that's going to say, I was a communication major. Hey, I do oral speaking, I get in front of crowds regularly. I'm an extrovert. I am the spokesperson for my family. I'm the person in my relationship that speaks the most. Before you go touting what you do, hear me out on what I talk about when I say, do you know how to communicate? On a basic level, we all know how to communicate. It is the difference between, if somebody asks me, do I know how to draw something? I can draw a stick figure. I might be able to draw a tree with some grass, and I can create something. I was even able at one point to go one of those sipping paint, and I was very amazed that I was able to be directed into making this beautiful picture. I never thought I was ever creative enough to do something like that. So that was cool too. But would I describe myself as somebody that can draw, somebody that actively does it? No. What is the difference though? If somebody asks me, can I draw? I would say, very basic. It's the skill level, right? It's the sliding scale. It's about, if the lower end of it to the higher end of it, and all in between on the spectrum, right? And so most things in life are like that, right? Skill based. And communication is not different. Communication, um, just because you know how to talk, just because you know how to um, express your opinion, express your views, or so you think, or just because you have expressed your views, does not mean that you are an open, direct, clear communicator and that you know what communication looks like in a healthy space. Okay. Why am I talking like this? And this is not to bust y'all upside the head. This is not to make y'all feel bad. This is to say, honestly, I thought I was one of the best communicators in life, right? I really thought, I've been in oratory contests. I speak, and when I speak, you know, I articulate quite well. I understand, I comprehend pretty well. And if I need to say something, I'm able to kind of break it down. I even consider myself a teacher in some sense. I can break down what I'm trying to say and be able to bring it to different skill levels and get them to understand it, or at least I think so, right? That's, if you'd have asked me, I'd have told you that um, very easily, right? And so that is why I'm saying be careful when we say about when we talk about communication, and we talk about if you are somebody that's able to communicate well, right? Because the reality is communication is not easy. It is not easy, and it's not it's just levels to this, okay? It's certainly levels. And to be honest with you, most people are not really um I'm not going to say good communicators, but I do want to say that, but I'm going to go a little step further. Most people don't really know what it means to communicate well and effectively, and to understand people's communication types, that they don't even understand how they can improve, nor if you don't understand how you can improve, or you don't understand that you're not the best at it, then you won't know that you should improve. And if you did not understand that there's ways to improve, then you're not actively working on it, right? And if you're not actively working on improving your communication style, then that's something that can be lacking, not because you're a bad person, but just because you didn't know. So again, I don't think ignorance is bliss. I believe if we talk about it, we can understand how to um, work on our key relationships. And communication is my God, it's a foundation piece. It is a foundation piece. If we are communicating well, we will be able to save 80% of our relationships. Hey Trey, how are you, girl? Um, Yeah, and so that's why I'm so passionate about it, because this is one of those foundational pieces. If you get to um even I don't want to say master your communication, but it's so if you become self-aware and you put energy into it, learning communication styles and improving your communication with the relationships that you want to maintain, man, I'm trying to tell you, you will win. You will win. You will win. So let's break down some just definitions first, right? First, we're going to just give a definition on communication, right? Because I think we all think we know what everything is, and I'm all big now on definitions, and I'm all big on like really breaking stuff down and the pieces and the, to understand better what we're talking about, right? So it's very basic definition of communication is that it is to impart or exchange information or news. Okay. It's to impart or exchange information or news, right? And that is the very basic definition of it, right? Um, so that's what communication is. That's what we're talking about. That's, on a very basic level, we all know that's what it means, or you share something. Oh, hey, Uncle Jerry, love you. Thank you. Um, just trying to help you. Like, listen, because if we talk more and we understand what communication is about, I'm telling you, we can save a lot of our relationships. We don't have to throw away every relationship we have. Like this, that's getting old. If 2020 and 2021 showed us nothing else, it is life is precious, that time is a currency. You don't have as much of it you think you do, and you don't have as much time with people than you think you do. You need to cherish relationships, and this is why we are talking about how to deal with them better. Every relationship is not sunshine and balloons and wonderful rainbows. Let's just be honest. You're going to argue in some relationships. You're going to have disagreements. And the reality is, when those things come up, you need to know how to fight fair. You need to know how to communicate effectively. You need to understand how to not push somebody away because you have a bad communication style. Oh, we don't want to talk about that, but that's the reality. And I can admit that there's been some times when I, I felt like I was right. And in that time, I did not communicate well. Why? Because I was right. And that was more important than communicating well, meaning, did I stop and listen? Was I careful about my tone? You know, tons of things, right? So just this is why I'm so passionate about it, because I know when I've done it wrong and when I've gotten it wrong, and I'm sure I'll get it wrong again because we're human. But I do know that if no one can say anything else about me, is I'm intentional about it now. I'm very much self-aware of what I do, and I try to make an attempt to be very intentional about what I say, what I do, and especially when I have relationships that I want to maintain, going back and making it right if I ever made it wrong. Okay. So I gave a definition for what basic communication is. Okay. Um, Communication is really, uh, like I said, a foundation of everything we do. There's so many different type of styles. And one of the things that's very basic that you guys might know or might not know is that there's verbal communication and there's nonverbal communication. Um, we have to be very aware of both, right? Verbal communication is just what that sounds like when you speak to somebody. And nonverbal is everything that's not spoken, right? So y'all know, especially some of us, these facial features, how we turn our eyes up and we make the expressions when we we roll our eyes when we had a looks. I mean, like, we have a million memes, but it's real. Like, we literally have all these body, even this. I'm speaking to you in a nonverbal way right now. I'm communicating something nonverbally. What am I communicating? Probably that I have an attitude or I don't want to hear it, or that I'm closed off. You see that? I'm closed off, right? You know, when somebody comes up to you and says, they extend themselves, that usually means they're open, they're receiving, they want you to come in. When my face is screwed up when you're talking like that means I don't believe you. It's so many different nonverbal cues we need to be very careful about, because sometimes we're like, oh, I never said anything wrong, and we don't understand that all that nonverbal communication is speaking for us. So whatever you think, when we talk about mindset, whatever you think, whatever you feel, baby, whether you believe it or not, it is coming out. And the ones that can hide it, they can hide it to a certain extent. You're not going to always be able to hide it. It's going to come out. So instead of us pretending like it's not there, let's be more aware of these things so we can communicate what we really feel, right? So many people are used to, I know you've heard of direct communication and indirect communication. We're going to get into that. But, most people communicate indirectly, and nonverbal is a lot of indirect communication, but it still matters. People still see it. People still interpret it. And so it's still part of communication. Let me get back into the other stuff. Hold on, I want to bring up Tracy. You said something. Communication involves each party to be honest, transparent, and able to be open and receptive to what is being said in a respectful manner. That is a really good definition, Trey. That is really good. That is absolutely correct. Communication involves each party to be honest, transparent, and able to be open to be receptive to what is said in a respectful manner. Absolutely. And that actually brings in all the four keys: communication, honesty, communication, honesty. You got me. Now I can't think of the other two. Why can't I think of two? Communication, honesty. I said it earlier. Y'all gonna have to go back and look. But I have it. It just went out of my head. But that's I'll respect and something else. But that's absolutely true. And that's why we need to understand what that means, right? I think we say words, and I don't think we know how to execute things as much as we think we do. And that's not a dig at anybody. That is just human nature. Like if somebody asks you, do you know how to work a computer? The first thing most people say, yeah. Yeah. And then if they ask you something more detailed, it's like, well, I don't even know how to do that. And the reality is that most people don't want to look like they don't know something. And so instead of trying to figure it out, the first response is, yeah, I know how to do that. Of course I do. What, you think I'm stupid? It's so interesting. Whenever I notice sometimes when I try to help people, there's this thing that happens where the assumption is that I think that they're dumb, right? So the first thing they're going to do is try to prove their intellect. And in trying to prove their intellect, what I notice a lot is they will miss something huge because they rather look like they know it than say, no, I don't know it, and probably be taught something that's invaluable. That's one of the main things, even when I'm managing people, I've learned is that I've had to say this in interviews. It's one of my interview secrets is I always say, hey, listen, in this position, you're not going to be able to know everything. It's it's very detail and orientated. You're going to learn a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. You're not going to know it all in day one, month two. You need to write things down, ask questions if you don't know. Don't pretend like you know. That's the most dangerous thing in the field where things are very detail oriented. Pretending like you know to save face. It's the most dangerous thing I see. And that doesn't just happen at work. It happens in relationships. People pretending like they know, people not wanting you to tell them anything because then now there's an insecurity that's being exposed. I'd rather say that I know what's going on, and I'd rather defend myself than be honest and say that I did not know that, or no, I didn't see that, I didn't understand that. I'm sorry, explain what happened. So some of that stuff is pride too. So let me get in some more definitions here, guys. Okay, so when we talk about effective communication, I want to give some reasons why communication is important in a relationship. We all have a very strong need to connect and to belong. Remember, we talked about that. So as humans, we are put on this earth to connect to people. So we all have a strong need for connectivity and belonging. That's why it's so important that we have positive social interactions, right? Because it actually creates a well-being inside of us. That is a physical fact. The doctors know that. It's a psychological fact. The reality is that when you have better communication, when you are have a good support system, when you have positive, strong communication around you, you are physically better, you're emotionally better, you're mentally better. So that's how important this thing is. You ever heard somebody say people been keeping things inside and they explode? They're stressed out because guess what? They been meaning to say something. They wanted to say something for so long and they never got the guts to say it. And so like they almost exploding because they keep all that stress and that pressure inside. And because they never really spoke their mind, they're stressed and it actually physically manifests into sickness and illness. So this communication thing is no joke, okay? You might think I'm just exaggerating, but I'm telling you it does physically affect you. A lot of times when you see people having these heart attacks, strokes, these physical ailments, ask about their stress level, ask about the things that they've been through. And a lot of times you'll realize that they have insurmountable stress levels around them. And a lot of times they didn't feel like they can properly communicate because of the relationships and the toxic or ineffective or indirect communication that was happening or was not happening, right? So that's why this thing's important. So we all need it. It is important to our self, our well-being. And not only that, it honestly builds positive emotions. So we talk about emotion and intelligence. I talked about social self-care. It's very important to build these relationships that enhance happiness, which is a fleeting moment, but it's just something that builds positive emotions with us. It's you can connect with people with just a smile. You can connect with somebody that you see on a train and you can smile and literally make their day. I remember I met some current friends of mine, and I remember on the train one day, and they were like, "Hey, yeah, we've been seeing you, and we love this about you, blah, blah, blah. And when you smile," blah, blah," and I was just like, they just started telling me all this stuff, and you know what? I was just so blown away because I never spoke to these two ladies, and what they let me know is that they just saw me, and they noticed that I smiled and I was kind, and they just, approached me and we ended up becoming friends, and it was just so empowering. It was empowering and important, and it really made my day because I realized that my smile was a communication. It was a nonverbal communication to them. You see what I'm saying? You see how important these things are? And I know I hear people say stuff, they joke, say stuff like, yeah, I have resting B face, right? Which is meaning like they always kind of look like this, they always kind of look like, mm, and the people are like, what's wrong with you? Nothing wrong. This is my face. And people don't even realize what you're giving off. what do you even understand the nonverbal cues you're giving off when you have a negative look on your face? You're saying so much than you even think you're saying. And then people say, well, don't assume that you know what I'm saying. And nobody has to assume, but you have to understand the importance of nonverbal communication. Matter of fact, we speak non-verbally more than we speak verbal. So you really have to be very cognizant of it. It's important. Whether you care or not, it's important. Okay. You care about relationships, you better care about your nonverbal. It is important. Right. So when we're still talking about healthy relationship, it's important that not only are you able to send a message in a constructive way, but you also take feedback, right? The response of the receiver of the message is just as important as the giver of the message, right? Conversation, communication is two-way. It is two-way. A lot of times we don't believe that, right? It is two-way. What you say, how you say it, is just as important as who you say it to and how they receive it. Although you cannot control what the person receives, because mind you, they filter it through some things, you can control what you are delivering and at least getting feedback from the receiver to understand if they understood what you're saying. The reality of it is that you don't know, you're not a mind reader. So if people don't tell you how they feel and they hold it, you know, they don't speak it or they don't react to it non-verbally, you don't necessarily know. But if you want to be an effective communication, you need to be able to communicate something and then ask for feedback. Don't be afraid to ask for feedback. Sometimes when I'm saying something like, okay, did you understand that? Like, does that make sense? And that's not being condescending. That's not acting like that person's dumb. See, we're so easy to be offended by everything people say that we're not getting understanding. Sometimes it's good to stop. Like when you have somebody that lectures, have you ever had somebody that lectures for 2 hours straight? They have a monotone voice, and you're just like, I am not getting this. You could even be writing it down. You're not getting anything. You're not absorbing anything because you're just like, who they just dumping and dumping information on you, and you don't have a moment to absorb it. You're not understanding it. You're kind of there. And sometimes they're like, for the sake of timing, because they dump so much information on you, wait to the end. And I hate that. Let me just be honest with you. I hate when I'm somewhere and they say, write your questions down. We'll take them at the end. And I understand why they have to do that, especially if they have a large group of people they're talking to and a limited amount of time. I understand that. I understand the sidebars and the tangents can go all type of places. But the way that I prefer to learn and communicate is that when they speak for a little bit, then they say, hey, anybody have any questions on this portion? Anything I need to explain before I go further? The reason that's important to me is because maybe I need to understand this part first before you go on to the next part. And I won't understand that if I didn't understand the first part. And so if I wait to the end of the lecture and there's 4 different parts, I might be completely lost. And I might also have been numbed out so much so that I don't even want to ask the question anymore. Because now I'm just like, whatever. Now I just been listening to somebody talk, and now all I hear is blah 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 blah. That's why we have to be super careful to be effective and understand that you just try to get your point across is not always effective. You need to understand how you're communicating something and then be cognizant of the receiver. Like the way I talk to a 5-year-old is going to be different than the way I talk to my college professor. It is, right? I'm going to talk to the 5-year-old in wording and mentioning things that make sense to them that they can grasp at their level. And the way I talk to my college professor is going to be different as well. I'm going to make sure that I'm articulate, that I'm getting my point across, and that I'm speaking at a certain level and it has some relevance to what's going on in the context of things, right? Okay. I'm sorry. I hope this is making sense. If it's not making sense, please anybody say something. Like, I told you it's not a one-way conversation. I want you guys to talk about it because it's all important, right? Just like I said, feedback is important. Feedback is important. So I just spoke about how you have to worry about get feedback. That's important. We have to, when somebody receives information, what you need to understand is they're encoding what you say, and then they have to decode it, right? What does that mean? They are, at one point they're taking the information in and they're just storing it in their brain, and then they have to take the reference of the environment, what we're talking about, who you are to them, and they decode it to make sense, right? I could say, I'm gonna give you an example. I could say, come on out here, right? To 3 different people that have 3 different type of relationships at 3 different times in 3 different tones and 3 different ways. And depending on what the context is, it means something different to all 3 people. If I'm about to fight somebody or they have a problem with me and they said, what you gonna do? When I say, come on out here, come on out, to them, that's aggressive term. And that means come on and let's be confrontational and possibly fight, right? If I'm trying to teach my child to ride a bike and they're scared to come on outside and they're nervous, I'm like, come on out, come on, I'm gonna help you. Come on, don't be nervous, don't be scared. And that's a different context. I'm being nurturing. I'm telling them to come out. If I am trying to get somebody to try on a new outfit or something, or no, I'm trying to get somebody. Let's say I'm trying to get somebody to go somewhere with me, and I say, "Come on, you take it forever. Come on." They know that I'm trying to rush them. I'm trying to get them to move and do action. So you see, the same words, 3 different relationships, 3 different situations, 3 different contexts can mean Totally different things. Why? That was a simple example, but I want to explain that because just because you think people understand, that doesn't mean that people encode a certain way and then they decode a certain way. And you can't necessarily control that part of it, but this is why we ask for understanding. This is why we ask for feedback to see if they are processing the responses correctly as to why we're giving it. That's why I ask people, I'm like, do you get it? You know, are you getting what I'm saying? I'm not doing it to be condescending. I'm doing it to say, I'm hoping that what the way I'm trying to portray this is how it's coming off to you. Um, if it is not, tell me so I can maybe rephrase it. If it is not, let me know what part is not right so we can get understanding. Understanding is a two-way thing, it's not one way. So sometimes people are like, well, let me just try to understand it. You cannot understand without communicating with the person that initially gave the information off. I mean, you can, but you might not get it fully. Sometimes I like to go to the source. I tell people I want to go to the source. I don't like a lot of two-hand, three-hand way, the telephone game. Like, oh, so-and-so said this and they said that or that. You can always miss some information there and it might not be right, right? I want to get it from the source. So if somebody's giving some information to you, you want to make sure you're clear and understand it and not pretend like you don't for the sake of looking like you're not dumb. I don't understand what this thing is, or people don't want to, they're so scared of what people think about them that they rather not know, not be clear, so that they are not perceived like they don't understand. We got to deal with those type of things because it hinders communication greatly, right? Um, let's see. There, let's see. I don't want to get too much into the psychology part of it because it goes super, super, super deep. But let's see. There's a such thing as you want to make sure that when you're communicating that you are let's see, that you give, there's four facets to it. There's facts, there's self-revealing, relationship, and appeal. I'm gonna run through these because this is the psychology part of it that you might not need to know this way. And I'm just gonna give it to you because it's a piece of it I want you to know. The fact is what you tell that as actual data, facts, statements. Self-revealing, what do you reveal about yourself? Like what are you telling about yourself in this um this communication effort, right? Relationship is the third one. What do I think about you? Okay. How I think about you determines on how I give the message. Whether you want to acknowledge that or not, that is a key piece of communication. How I perceive the relationship is how I communicate the information. So important that you understand that. And then appeal. What do I want to make you do, right? What is my attempt to give you? Why am I giving you this information? Why do I care on how it's received, right? Because all those things matter. So again, it's what information I'm trying to give to you. Um, what am I revealing about myself when I give this information to you? Um, what is the perception of the relationship? Like, how do we get along? Because it matters on how you deliver what you're trying to say. And then what am I trying to accomplish by delivering this to you? These are all four elements of communication, right? And I want to make this like relevant to you guys. So I hope I'm not boring you, but I just need you to get that all those things is so important. And that's why communication is such a complex thing, right? I'll give you another example. If you have somebody in a relationship and they say, hey, let's see, you the sugar jar is empty, right? The wife says the sugar jar is empty, and in that situation she has an expectation of her husband to go and fill it. um but that's a silent expectation she put out there. If her husband knows her really well and he's been around her for a long time, he kind of knows how she communicates, he might be um, trained well enough to be able to decode the sentence to say, oh, um, I am slightly upset at you that you are being unreliable because you didn't refill the sugar jar. Um, and And now he'll take his cue to understand that that's why she's upset, maybe, right? Or he could miss it completely and say, oh, okay, let me just feel it. And then they'll understand why she's upset for the next day, right? So then that is a problem between those two people and how they communicate, is because, again, she thinks she's saying something that is getting across to him and he should understand it. But that's an assumption again, too, in that he's understanding all the micro pieces in what she said. Um, Communication is so complex. I hear a lot of things that people say that one of the most disturbing things is they should know what I mean. They should know how I talk. They know how I do. And that's so dangerous. It's such a dangerous thing because you do expect a certain level of mind reading there that is not there. Um, Now I'm gonna preface that with this. I'm gonna say something like this. One of the best things I heard from somebody, and I don't know if it's who quoted it. So if I'm quoting somebody that I'm not giving them credit, I apologize. But one of the things that was said is that when you're in a good relationship, you should plan to become a student of them, and they should become a student of you. And that's not just a romantic relationship; that's any relationship. And I thought that was amazing, right? Because all a relationship is that we are committed to wanting to be in um to have this relationship, and therefore we're committed to understanding that person the best we can so that we can um understand some things about them that we don't have to constantly ask. One of the most annoying things when you get to know somebody is that when you meet somebody over and over again, you say, what's your name again? That person, it leaves that person feeling like they are insignificant to you, not worth remembering. So sometimes such a simple thing to do in social environments is try to remember people's face, try to remember people's name, because it makes people feel seen and heard. When you constantly forget that, they will take it personally. And sometimes it's not personal. Sometimes people just have a really bad memory. But it's one of those things that if you can at all remember it, it's helpful. Okay, so we just talk about names, right? That's simple, like that's a surface relationship. But like if you're with somebody and you forget their birthday, that's a hurtful thing, especially if you think they have a real close relationship with you. If you forget your anniversary, it's hurtful for a marriage if you forget the anniversary date because they're like, wait, is that not significant to you? And to that person, they might be like, well, those type of days are not important. This is why communication is important so that you can understand those things about them and understand that what you're giving off versus what they're like. The biggest thing we talk about is misunderstanding, which is very true. But what I think the biggest thing is the communication that's under it. Most people don't communicate what they really mean. They don't have direct, open communication. They don't study the person that they're talking to enough to understand how they're learning, how they take things, what's the relationship on both sides, right? You might say, oh, okay, me and this person are really cool. You might not know that person looks at you as somebody that's a know-it-all. So if they really feel that way about you and maybe have not expressed that to you, and you might look at them and think, oh, this is just, um whatever. You might just think, hey, this is my friend. But if they perceive you that way, that might be why they can't receive information from you, because they think you know it all and they think you're a show off. And so they might think that you think that they don't know something, right? So if you don't understand that about them, you guys would always have mismatch communication, and you're silently bumping kids. See, everybody thinks that most bumping kids has to happen and it's confrontation and it's explosive and it's explosive. No, that's something that just bubbles up on the top. But the most dangerous communication is indirect communication that we never talk about, silent communicate, I mean, expectations that we never express. And when people ask us everything okay, we say, oh yeah, it's fine, because we don't want to deal with our secret or our blind expectations that we did not communicate, and we think it's too late, and we think that, oh, I don't want to cause a problem, I don't want to seem like I'm the problem, so I'll just pretend. But what they don't get is they're building a resentment level. And so now everything that person says is hitting. It's hitting. And when somebody gets tired, everything's going to be like annoying to them. Everything's going to be this. And then they're going to blow up, and people say they blow up out of nowhere. That is never true. Nobody ever blows up out of nowhere. It's not true. It's like a volcano. It's under the layer. It is bubbling up until it bubbles over. So nobody just blows up. So that's why communication, man, I need to talk. I think I'm going to have to do a whole series on communication. Anyway, I can't do it all today. And I'm not going to take it into another day because it's just so deep. But maybe I will take it into another day because I just think it's so much and we don't understand everything that's involved in communication. Yeah, I think I'm gonna talk about this on Thursday too. So I'm gonna kind of end it in a second. Here's I want to share this thing. It's called the 4 T's to communication. I thought this was really, 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 really cool. One is timing. When is a good time to bring this up, right? Considering what the environment is. Is it tense right now? Is somebody about to have an important test? Are they not going to be concentrating right now? Is somebody tired and sleepy so he won't be able to concentrate in that moment? Are they rushing to something and so therefore I'm going to be offended because I think they don't want to hear me? Is it good for me to talk to whatever I want to talk to them about right now? So timing is important. Okay. Timing is the first T. Tone is the second T. What is the tone of my voice? How am I coming across? What is my body language giving? Right. Remember I told you about the nonverbal communication you're giving with your body language. It is very important for you to understand what your body is saying that you might not even realize it's giving. Right. So it's very, very important that we consider tone. And I'm telling you, I didn't think tone was a big deal. Oh, was I wrong? Tone is so important. Because again, it depends on the relationship that you have and understanding that relationship to understanding. Like some people, I feel like I can say anything to, and they understand me. And because of the relationship, they are not going to ever get offended. But then there's some people that literally, if I say something, what a half octave more, that's like, why you say it like that? And it's like, whoa, what is that happened? And then I have to understand that. But that's for me to understand better if I want to maintain those relationships. So that's why you got to be a student of the people that you're in relationships with, right? And then it's tech. It's another one for tone. And what is the tone of my heart, right? Sometimes we have to be honest that we say things with a heart that might be tainted, right? If somebody's hurt you so many different times, you can be sarcastic when you say something. You can be pretend helpful. You can do all these things. And honestly, you don't necessarily realize that you're tainted when you're hurt because it can be hurt over a long period of time. So the tone of your heart can come out. That's a good one. We're going to talk about this all on Thursday more because I just think it's bringing up some really good key facts about this. I told y'all relationship stuff can go deep, but I just thought this was good. Technique. Am I remembering to start with a positive comment and saying something, positive first, a strength? Am I careful to not, use such strong words like always or never, right? Those are things that really are accusatory. And am I owning my own stuff and not blaming others or playing victim, right? That's so important, right? Sometimes we enter conversations and we want to blame. You did this. And we don't realize that we're never owning our stuff. Sometimes we're shifting blame because it makes us look better. And we're not being self-aware enough so that we do figure out what pieces that we played in it, right? So all of that matters, technique. And then truth. What am I saying that that is truth that lines up with how I want, like the data, right? Is it really 100% truth, or am I putting a spin to it? Let's just be honest, right? Sometimes we can say something that we know is a little bit skewed because it sounds a little bit better. Like if your mom asks you, "Did you take the trash out?" You're like, "Yeah, I took the trash out." And she doesn't understand why your dad's mad at you. What she didn't say is that he asked you to take the trash out. What you didn't say by omission is that he asked you to take the trash out 5 times. You didn't take it out until he yelled at you, and then you took it out. So you're omitting a lot of the fact that you did not take it out the first 5 times he's told you, and you didn't take it out after he yelled, right? So, is this slightly skewed to make you appear better? Right? Um, let's see. It says, what are you saying? Here, even if it's timing, say to be a truth. It's here's a receiving part of communication. Is what somebody telling me the truth, even if this is gonna be some good stuff, y'all. We're gonna dive into this a little bit more on Thursday. Even if their timing, their tone, and their technique is off. Do y'all hear what I said? Is what somebody telling me still the truth that I need to hear, even if their tone, their technique, and their timing is off? Because that's a mature thing. If somebody came to you the wrong way, in the wrong time, and the wrong technique, like they did it all wrong, but what they're saying is still the truth and an important truth that you need to hear, can you receive it? Y'all, that's a whole masterclass I could teach. Can you still receive it? Can you still receive the important data that they need to give across to you if their timing, if their technique and their tone was off? Or are you just so caught up in how they delivered it that you can't hear it? And I hear people saying all the time, well, they didn't say it right. They didn't say it when I need all that other stuff. I understand. All four are perfectly necessary. But if somebody's telling me my son is hurt, if they tell me when I'm on my way out of the country, or if they tell me in a snotty stank way, an accusatory way, to you going out, you don't even care about your son, he just got hurt, or if they're trying to tell me and they are, whatever it is, if it's all wrong, if the tone is wrong, if the time is wrong, if the technique is wrong, but they're telling me some important information that I need to know, I do not care enough about what they're saying and how it's making me feel versus what that information that they're giving me is. I will push those three things to the back burner to get that information I need. And that's what we have to be better at. We need to be better at the whole emotional piece of it. Yes, people need to understand, they need to, you can block the message from getting to the person that needs to receive it by not having the right tone, timing, and technique. However, if it's the truth that you need to hear, you still need to hear it. And sometimes people will refuse to hear it just because it's not coming the correct way. So that's a good conversation that we need to have, right? And then the last part of it, is it possible for me to be teachable in spite of how I feel, and apply this truth to my life? Sometimes you can receive something from somebody and you feel like they usually do the wrong thing, or you have your thoughts about your relationship and that comes into play. Can you be mature enough and be able to say, you know what? 90% of this time, this person comes with foolishness and whatever, but for some reason, I'm still connected to this person. So obviously, I value the relationship on some level. So is it possible that I can hear them, and maybe they might actually be able to teach me something? Y'all, let me tell y'all something. That was probably the hardest thing I've ever learned, the hardest lesson I've ever learned. I'm still learning it. That lesson, Paris Johnson's still learning, but I'm learning it so much easier now because I realize you can learn from anyone. I can learn from my son, and I did not understand that. That's not always the way people think. Sometimes people believe that the older you are, the more experience you have, the more wisdom you have, and although that's 100% true. I do believe you can learn from anybody. I have learned from homeless people on the street. I have learned from somebody who I know has learning impediments. I've learned from somebody that was four-year-old person. They said something that really shifted the way I thought about something. Why do you think in the Bible it says that Jesus really said to be childlike, have childlike faith? Because we can learn something just from the pure innocence of how they move. So there's always something you can learn. You can learn something from nature. If you sit around and watch nature, you can learn. You can learn stuff from biology. You can learn stuff. I mean, it's so much you can learn from observation. Like I'm a scientist in my mind. I grew up around science and math. And a lot of stuff I understand is like scientific technique and critical thinking. And so oftentimes I can see a message or a lesson in anything. And I'm learning so if I can see and get a message out of watching nature or looking at biology or studying these things, why can't I also learn something from somebody who I perceive doesn't have as much um, knowledge at me in certain things. That is a pride thing that I don't honestly have taken to account, and I haven't in the past. And now I understand that that's error on my way. To live a good life, to live a life where you always learning, is to always be teachable. So what does that mean? This is under the truth thing, because if that means somebody who doesn't know that I normally might pour into all the time, or I'm telling them how to do things, they can also pour into me. They can teach me something. And I didn't even start understanding that until I remember I have a friend who was a kindergarten teacher. She says, my kids teach me stuff all the time. And I used to always laugh until she started telling me some of the lessons. I'm like, I guess they are teaching you something. And then it changes the way I look at things. It's just because, you know, I'm more experienced and I have the most knowledge doesn't mean I can't learn from anything and any experience. So y'all, I told y'all this is gonna get deep. I told y'all it's gonna get deep. I really, really love that Forties. I really love this conversation. It is spilling over. I thought we were going to just talk about it today, but obviously we got to do a part 2 to communication in a healthy relationship. Yeah, I really hope that you got something from this. I hope that you could relate. I hope that you could take some of these tools, just learning about it, and apply it to some of your relationships, and start to understand how big communication is and how much we don't know about it, and how much we can make it better if we are intentional, right? So I could only give a piece because it's so much, but I'm gonna try to like wrap it up on next time I do my live on Thursday and give more. I honestly could probably do a whole series on communication. I probably will later at one point, but since we're in this relationship series, is communication is huge, and I don't believe we even get a fourth of how to do it. I'm sorry, I'm being very nice. I don't think most people have 1/16 of understanding of what effective, direct communication is and how they are doing well or not doing well at it. So, y'all, I really hope that this is helping you guys. If you guys are just jumping on, the replay will be up. Please watch the replay. If you're watching the replay, type replay so I can know that you're watching it. Man, there's so many people that tell me they're watching so much later, and I'm like, I didn't even know you didn't even like it, or you did. Please like, comment, and share. Like, comment, and share, so I can know that you're watching. That I know that you use this information. I also want to know this is valuable to you. I do think that I'm going to have an announcement. I think that I might be changing one of my platforms, so we'll be talking. So I need y'all to engage so I can understand that this is something you want, because there might be some changes that are coming up. But I really always enjoy the conversation. Please share this with people. You have no idea who all. First of all, we all have relationships, and we all need to know how to communicate better. So I guarantee you, if you share this on your timeline, if you share this, tag your family members and your friends and anybody you're in a relationship with, it will help. It will start the conversation. The purpose of this thing is for us to start having conversations so that we can start changing things. And this is around healthy relationships, and it's around how we communicate in those healthy relationships. So if you want to communicate more effectively, share this with somebody. And at least, at the very least, it's going to do is it's going to start dialogue, healthy dialogue that can bring about healthy, good change. All right. I love you guys. And it's nothing you can do about it. Like, it's really nothing you can do about it. Like, fight me. And I'm joking. But I just want you to know, thanks for rocking with me. I will see you Thursday, same time, 6 p.m. We're going to finish this conversation about conversations. Communication. Conversation about communication. And don't forget, you are enough. Why you're enough? Just because. You don't have to do anything special. You don't have to walk on water for me. You ain't got to know it all. And you don't have to even be an effective communicator for me to believe you're enough. You're just enough because you are. All right. Love you guys.